Welcome to Just Jump. My name is Chef Kenneth. I'm here with Chef Seppi in the background.
Hey guys!
We got Steven behind the camera, who's our professional photographer, and we're just a collective of three creatives coming together to share some experiences with you guys. So this is really just going to be some conversation that we have and just following us maybe on some background, behind the scenes kind of things to show you where we've been, where we're going, how we plan to get there, those kinds of things, and just sharing it from the experiences that we've had and jumping to make things happen for us as opposed to waiting for other people to give us opportunities. So we want to share that with you. We want to talk to you guys about, or as we want you guys to join us as we talk about our travels, as we talk about how Giuseppe and I come up with dishes to create for the dinners that we do. Steven's travels to do Fashion Week and different shows that he's put on, things like that. Just talking about coming from the perspective of making things happen, just jumping. We're also right now, we're in quarantine, as you all know. And so we're talking about staying mentally healthy in this season. So continuing to create, although we're in the house, pushing forward, still in our craft, making sure that we continue to push ourselves, that we're still creating ideas so that we're ready and that we're actually better when we come out of this quarantine. So come join us and hope you guys get something good out of it.
What's up, guys?
Hey.
What's up, man?
How's
Really
it
happy
going?
we were all able to get together.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah,
It's been a minute.
It's been a quick
Yeah.
minute,
It's
man.
been a minute since we've seen you.
Yeah, been locked down a little bit in quarantine, so it's kind of good to get out of my neighborhood.
Yes,
And that 405 freeway here in Los Angeles is pretty empty. So
that's awesome, man. I have not been on the 405 since
I
lockdown.
avoid 405, but
Yeah.
it was clear. Like
Yeah.
Waves told me 405, and I cruised through.
You know, now that I'm thinking about it, I have not been on the freeway since we've been on lockdown.
Oh, yeah.
I probably have not gone out of this few block radius
Right.
of my home.
That's what we're supposed to do during quarantine.
Yeah,
Like
that's true.
not leave your little comfort bubble in
Yeah.
your little city. Yeah, I haven't crossed this way in the valley for a good 2 weeks.
Yeah.
This
For
is the
sure.
furthest I've come. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
since we've come back from our event.
Yeah, that's long as we've been away, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have not been anywhere really.
what were you guys doing at the event?
So we were working for BMW's Off-Roading Motorcycle Academy. They had a event called Adventure Days through a company called Rawhide, and so we were cooking for them. Now, a crazy thing about that is we ended up cooking for like 280 people. But before we got there, they had told us that the max that you could have was 1,000.
And then they brought it down.
Then they brought it down to 500. Then while we're there, they brought it down to
like
250. And it was like, well, we're above that, but we're already here.
Right.
You know what I mean? Everybody's here. People are here from out of state,
Out of the country.
out of the country. As Seppi, we talked about, like at that point, we were kind of still making fun of people. We weren't making fun of the crisis, but we were like laughing at people getting toilet paper and all this stuff.
Right.
And then we came back and it's like, oh crap.
Yeah.
Literally, we were gone for 5-7
We
days.
were gone for we left Tuesday. We came
Yeah.
back on Sunday, and I remember when we came back on Sunday, we're putting everything away, and then one of the staff member comes down. She's like, "They're shutting down LA. They're shutting down the restaurants. They're shutting down grocery stores," and we're just like, we
Yeah.
all would go into like a panic. I'm
Yeah.
freaking out. I'm like, this is crazy.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Wow.
So Seppi got hit when he found out that they were shutting down the baseball season
Oh
and
yeah.
the NBA.
Oh.
That's when it hit
Sports
him.
season, yeah.
When they told me they were shutting down church, I was like, y'all shutting down Jesus? I was like, wait a minute. Ain't nobody ever shut down church. So when I heard that, that's when it hit me. But I'll tell you this. Another thing happened while we were up there that really freaked me out. So we're from LA. We don't get tornadoes. We got a tornado warning while we were there because we're in the middle of the Mojave Desert.
Oh.
And it wasn't like this, they weren't playing. They were playing 0 games. They were like, they showed a triangle. And they were like, you guys are in the middle of the triangle. And if this lands, they were like, they didn't say if it lands, take shelter. The emergency broadcast that came on, the Amber Alert that came on our phones, because our phones had an Amber Alert,
Right.
and it said take shelter, and I'm like, what? Look, I've never had to do that being from LA,
Right.
so I'm like, all right, Lord, we got tornadoes in California, which is not right, not
Right.
supposed to happen, and we got the zombie apocalypse impending. So my whole brain was just freaked out. It was just like, this is it. This is the end.
Wow.
The end of days as we know it.
And trying to maneuver through those obstacles as well as prepare a meal for that event.
Oh yeah. That was a whole different
I think I saw on your story that it was like raining.
Yeah.
You guys had to like cover up with tarps and like.
It was insane.
Yeah.
So we get there, our kitchen wasn't ready yet. So we had to move all of our kitchen equipment from the end, of this campsite that's set up for 400 people. So it's a big space. We have to move all of our kitchen equipment to be clear across the other side of this compound. And we're cooking like open air, which was great. It ended up being a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It ended up being a lot of fun. But we're like, at first, Seppi and I woke up that morning, we're trying to cook on a regular stove for a regular house, 4-burner stove.
Wow.
That's not going to work when trying to get ready for 400 people to show up. Because at the time, we were originally anticipating 400 people coming to this event. Only 280 showed up. But when we were there prepping, initially, we were prepping for 400 people in the middle of this impending apocalypse. So, I mean, literally, we were having to work through fears and our nerves and all of these things just to get ready to even start working. And so, like I said, Seppi and I started, he was making eggs for the entire staff. I was literally cooking. I think we cooked like 220 pounds of chicken. And I was trying to do that on a 4-burner stove, you know. That was just the first day, you know. And so, but anyway, yes, rain came, tents were up. It was a lot of fun. We made it happen.
Yeah.
Great team we were working with, some other chefs that work with us that are amazing, that are like family to us, and it was just a good time.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's dope.
It was actually, once we got past the initial fear, it became a break from the real world.
Yeah.
So it wasn't, but once again, when I got the call that church was out, that's when it hit me again. But for the most part, we were just enjoying each other. We were so far, we were off the grid, we were in the middle of the Mojave Desert. So it wasn't until we got back home
To the real world.
that we were like, oh crap. Like, you know, it was like literally like, let's hurry up and get home. Like, I just want to be home right now. It's going down. I'm terrified, you know. So yeah, anyway, it was a big deal.
As a creative, this is a question for both of you guys. As a creative, I know as me personally, running into obstacles and then getting like a side swipe by the coronavirus, like how are you maneuvering through that? You know, this is what, week 3, you know, depending on who's counting or where you start from.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing personally, kind of as a creative, as an independent contractor of your own business?
Yeah.
How are you maneuvering through this circumstance?
Time?
Yeah.
So that's very interesting. So once again, because Giuseppe and I were together that whole first week, it was like this thing like where I was like, well, if you got it, I already got it. You already got it. If I got it, you already got it. So we're going to just keep doing us. Like, so one, I would say, besides my wife, of course, we've been here just really bonding, which has been great. You know what I mean? So like we've been, as you've seen on our Instagram, we've been doing puzzles and all that stuff to keep us sane. But as creatives, Seppi and I have still been getting together a few times a week. We're still coming up with dishes. We're, you know, even introducing this, you know, like I called up Steven and I was like, Steven, yo, like Steven and I have worked together. He shot so many things for us. And so just even in having these kinds of conversations with you all as creatives have kept me sane, you know, so really in preparing for the future is all I can do because events have been canceled, you know, or not canceled, postponed. So Giuseppe and I, we literally, this month was supposed to be bananas for us. Like we had a Dine in LA plan for last week. Then we had A camp this week we were supposed to. Oh, this week was supposed to be Dine in LA. This Saturday, tomorrow was supposed to be Dine in LA. Then the following week we were supposed to have another camp with BMW. We were going to be up there for a week. Then we were coming back to start prepping for a wedding that we had on the 25th. So it was like all of these things were coming up back to back. Like our calendar went from being exuberantly full,
super like busy, and then now it's like, I mean, like, I guess to cut in, like, April is supposed to be like a busy month, and now in my mind I'm already like, man, I'm gonna be making a lot of money the next 3 months.
Yeah.
Now it's like, I'm not gonna be making a lot of money. Like, in May we have 2 weddings, and then 2 of them are back to back, and so it's like, if in our minds we're still planning, we're still moving forward, like, we're gonna keep on planning and to do those events. But if this epidemic keeps like going on, then it's like it puts in possibly postponing it to another date.
Right. Yeah, those are, I mean, me as a personal, I'm a photographer, and I shoot product photography as my main bread and butter, but I also work with different clientele from different ranges, from models to events in some cases. And like you were saying, like, things just got postponed. Companies are supposed to shut down if it's not necessity business.
Yeah.
And just getting this kind of wave of just like postponement or cancellations.
Oh yeah.
And then trying to maneuver and still trying to be, because we're independent contractors, we're entrepreneurs, so we still have to like think for the next month.
Yeah.
You know, we still got to think to progress and to stay motivated. That was the one thing before this came. I know I had a to-do list. I was on it, like knocking down my to-do list one by one, boom, 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 at it. And then got sideswiped with the coronavirus, and now I'm like sleeping in.
Hey. Sleep has been good though.
Sleep has been good. But my to-do list, I've not been knocking it out. Like, only lately, you know, after you gave me that call and we talked and even said like, hey, let's get together. I know we need to have like a mastermind, you know, creatives sharpening each other. That kind of gave me a little bit of a motivation. And then just trying to understand like what's going on in the world, because that first week when things was just people running by buying toilet paper in there, it was like you didn't know what tomorrow was gonna look like. You know, so it was like that hope, that motivation just like crumped down. You know, I'm kind of going back up with, you know, knowing now the virus, knowing the circumstances around it, been 2 weeks into it a little bit, and then also talking with my fellow creatives and kind of getting their perspective and just kind of like helping each other mentally. From there.
Mentally, it does so much. Like, so Seppi came over the other day.
Seppi.
Yes, this is Seppi. Seppi came over the other day, and this is like Seppi for the last 3-4 years. It's been like just my right hand. So we do everything together. He's working with me as my sous chef partner. Like, we're always creating, creating like dishes, but not only dishes, but creating opportunities, right? And so the other day he came over and we just started like making some dishes, you know? And I told Seppi, I said, this is the longest that I've gone this whole week without watching CNN or like being freaked out by Corona. So it's just so good to be able to get back in our element and be able to cook and create to get our mind off of these things, right? And so as even when we were having our conversation, it's like, man, like, even talking to Steven, talking to Seppi, it's just been like, okay, what are we going to do for the future? Because this will pass. This will be over one day. We don't know how soon it's going to be over. But when it is over, we got to be ready. You know, and so just talking about what to do once this is all over. Because if we get started, once it's over, we're already so far behind the curve. And so just going through that, and like one thing that had been really inspirational to me was when we were talking yesterday and saying that like Airbnb started during the last like financial crisis, and Pinterest and Uber and like all of these major companies. And so it's like, man, we could either see this as a time of just devastation and depression, or we could see it as an opportunity to really create the next big thing, you know? And so I've been I am excited about that. I'm excited. We've been wanting to do this forever. Like, we're like, let's get some content. Like, let's get on YouTube. Never been on YouTube, like literally for years. Like either I've been thinking about YouTube, been talking to Seppi about YouTube, been talking to Steven about YouTube, talked to many other people about YouTube, and I was just like, I never have the time.
Yeah.
Now we got nothing but time.
Now we
It's
got
like
nothing but time.
let's do something. So yeah.
And to piggyback off of what you were mentioning, I think another aspect when we were talking that I really enjoyed about showing kind of our progress and how we're coping with it, maybe that can give to someone else who's watching to see oh, they're experiencing the same, fears or insecurities that I'm feeling during this time.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing them move forward. And maybe if we can give a little insight based off of the experiences that we've had and based off of what we're doing now, maybe that can kind of encourage someone as well who's kind of in those same things. So I really attach to those ideas because I know that's part of what I want to do in my career.
Yeah.
Not only am I creating for myself, but I want to create to show younger generations or even people who's in other circumstances like,
for sure.
Look, you can do it. I'm doing it. It's scary, but take that leap. Or find that confidence within yourself and move forward, because that's what we need to do in these times.
For sure.
The natural easiest thing to do is kind of take a vacation,
be comfortable,
and exactly.
Zone,
for sure.
Yeah.
Be comfortable and complacent, and I think that's the perfect word.
Part of my process mentally to myself when I was going through the process, like, oh shoot, I'm waking up too late. In the day, it's like 11 o'clock. Some people are like, yo, I wake up at 11 o'clock on a normal day.
Yeah.
That's not me. Like, I'm up before 7, sometimes 6:30. There was times when I was waking up at 4:30, going to the gym, working out for an hour, coming back home, doing some work with my client, coming back home, working again. From going from that to like waking up at 11, it's a huge,
dude. I tell Stephanie like almost every time he comes over here, I'm like, man, I was up at 5:30. I didn't even have anything to do, excuse me. But I was up at 5:30 like usually every day. Lately I've been sleeping till 9 or 10 o'clock. I'm like, how did this even happen? But part of that is because I know I have nothing to do the next day. Yeah. I'm up until 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. Like, we working on this puzzle till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, So it has been such a life change. But once again, getting together to do these kinds of things. But I want to even go back to like what you were saying, like as far as in like being people who are going to inspire other people to just get up, to leap, to jump in this time. I think the reason that I was so excited about meeting with the two of you is because the three of us have had conversations in life in general. Like I went to high school with Steven, and so since I've known Steven and we've like talked in our adult life, we've always been jumping. And Seppi's been jumping with me. So it's like Steven jumped up and went to Europe for 3 months. Like I was like, and when you did it, I was like, dude, are you sure? Like I remember like we had dinner with some other friends and I was like, you doing what? Like, I don't even know if you remember that dinner. It was like we were with Evelyn and Louis and Hugo and Pablo. Like we were all like at this dinner and you were getting ready to leave. And I was like, what is this dude doing? And like for me at that time in life, I was broke. So I was really looking at you like, you about to do what? So like seeing you jump and then like, but once again, even at that time though, I wasn't jumping and traveling. It was like I had just got out of culinary school and I was like, this has to work. So instead of me going and working for someone else's restaurant or business, like I was like doing personal chefing. I ended up like being like, all right, let me, just figure this thing out, So I got some of my great big first time personal chefing jobs, but those all came from taking leaps. Like I got married at 21. It was like, this has to work. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like I can't let my wife down. Like we can't go back home, like we can't go back to mom and dad's house. Like we have to make this work. Seppi, when he jumped out to come into the culinary industry, like he could have decided like, I'm not going to do this like not self-taught, but like mentorship type thing. I'm going to go the traditional route and go to school. But he was like, no, I'm all in. And he partnered up with me. And so like, he's like been learning in the process of working for the last 3 years and like had opportunities to work full time at his other job. But he took the leap to be like, no, I'm going to stay in this field. I'm going to make it work. So seeing that we all do those kinds of things to make it work. Like, we're in my house right now. In my basement, we literally have like a restaurant set up for dinner.
Right.
Which again was a leap. It was like, who does that? Who invites strangers into their home and creates a 5-course dinner? You know, so those are all leaps. And so continuing on with that mindset, it's like, okay, how do we leap now? Like, you know, what's the next big thing? What's the next leap? And so in these uncertain times, you know, it's like we could be planning all these leaps and nothing happens because everything comes to a crash. But it's exciting to have that faith and to have that hope that there are better days coming. And this is what is keeping me going right now. Because I think if we weren't having these conversations, I think I would just be sitting up depressed and eating and watching TV and doing nothing with life.
Right.
Yeah, like when we were talking to Steven yesterday, he mentioned how when other clients had come up to him about doing a podcast, doing something like a talk show or something, and then they're like, okay, Steven's like, when are we going to do this?
Yeah.
And then, you know, the clients were like, oh, you know, let's wait a little while and have it settle or whatever. And then the motivation kind of goes away because you're so focused on this big thing can be really big, but no, we're going to wait.
Yeah.
And now Kenneth and I talking with Steven yesterday about doing this podcast, and then Steven's like, all right, when do you want to do it? And we're like, let's do it tomorrow.
Yeah.
And so I think what can keep us all going in this time of not having a lot of things planned to do is doing the things that we love to do and doing them right away. Keeping that motivation and keeping that inspiration going. Like just doing this podcast right now, this will allow other ideas to pop up, and also us wanting to continue to do episodes for other podcasts. Say next week, the week after, hey, there's not a lot to do. Let's do one every week, so we continue to be inspired by what we talk about, the content that comes up from it, and yeah.
I completely agree, and I think what you were touching on was like to give each other hope.
Yeah, that's a big thing.
We spoke about that yesterday, and that hope is such a motivator, you know. And I know those last week when things were crazy, that's what was lacking. Was like I didn't know. There was so much uncertainty about how the world was going and where it was going to go, and how I'm going to be affected by it directly because I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a self contractor. I'm like.
Yeah.
That hope kind of diminished a little bit, you know, but having these talks, having this conversation, getting together and kind of planning, and it also lights a fuel in me. I know that during this time, I'm like, this is where leaders are created. Like you either find out if you're a leader or you find out you're like a follower, or in between those things. And I'm not saying one is worse than the other or bad than the other. Everyone goes through their own phases, you know. You don't start off as a leader necessarily.
For sure.
But I've noticed I've had this natural pull where I was like, I need to stand up and do something. Yeah. Because if I'm not gonna do it, who else is gonna do it?
For sure.
And, I mean, where I come from and where I've been, I haven't seen that many of me traveling and jumping and making these leaps, you know, necessarily. And so I'm like, maybe this is the time where it's like I'm standing up to show where I'm at, you know, and if anyone else is there, join, and this is why we're here, and anyone else is willing to learn, like, you can take from that, and I also can learn from you as well. Yeah, you know, it could be a dialogue, a conversation in between.
For sure. I think one thing, going back to what Seppi was saying, but even to tag in what you were saying, Steven, it's like, one of the reasons why I love you too, and I lean on Seppi just about every day because he's, like I said, he's become my right hand. And so, there's all these conversations that Steve and I have had for years. And one thing that I love about both of you is what Seppi was talking about, like the do it now kind of thing. You know, it's like, and the why not. It's like this why not attitude. And the why not attitude, for me, is what has enabled us to create experiences as opposed to waiting for experiences to come. Or opportunities, you know what I mean? So going back to what you were saying, are we going to be leaders? Are we going to be followers? And then I think even more so than that, are we going to be complacent? You know what I mean? So I think those are 3 categories that we can all fall into just because they're the other two, the follower and the complacent, are very easy to fall into. You know, we can sit here and be like, well, the economy's down. How am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? But I would say going back into why I love the two of you is just like I've always been able to call you guys and just be like, okay, what's going on? What are we going to do? You know, and so like, example, like I hit up Steven about maybe 2-3 months ago and was like, dude, let's go to Egypt and let's take other people with us. And he was like, dude, yeah, I'm down. Like real quick, like it didn't take much convincing. It was just like, I'm in. And so like, that's amazing. And then like, once again, all the time I'm talking to Seppi, like, I'm like, bro, like we started dying in LA, it's in my basement. Mm-hmm. Let's go to San Francisco. Let's go to San Diego. Like, let's start this in other cities. And he's just like, yeah, like, that's what I need around me, are people that are just like, I can see the vision. I can do this. You know what I mean? Right. And so once again, creating opportunities, because nobody that I know of is offering opportunities to go to Egypt, to go to San Diego, to go to San Francisco, to even start a restaurant. You know what I mean? Like, do you know how many backups I would have to get to actually start a restaurant? So to actually say, we're going to do this pop-up Dine in LA, it's going to be held here in my house until we can get another facility. And then like, so then we stretched and we've been to Venice and we've been downtown and all these other places. But, excuse me, it started here. You know what I mean? And so once again, it's in creating opportunities. But I love you guys because you are movers, you know what I mean? As opposed to just dreamers, you're movers, you know? Stephen and I were laughing yesterday because we both happened to be in Italy at the same time. And so we hit up Stephen, didn't even know he was there. Hit up Stephen. Stephen's like, hey, I'm booking a car and I'm coming out tomorrow to come and meet y'all in Venice from Milan. And it's like, what? All right, let's go. Like, there's a couch here. Come chill with us, right? But those are the kind of people that we are, you know. Like I said, I was laughing the other day, and my wife and I, we were in Belize, and Steven was like, hey, I'm coming through. Like, that looks fun. And I was like, I told my wife, I was like, babe, you may want to get some space ready, because Steven really will show up on us. Like, Steven will hop on the plane, but that's what I love. Like I said, there hasn't been anything that Seppi and I have talked about doing that we haven't taken actual steps to doing. You know what I mean? Like, Seppi and I were talking about Egypt, and we're like, all right, how are we going to do this? You know, what are we going to do? Dude, like, the idea came, and I just started calling people. And I'm like, I hit up the chef that I met while I was in Egypt, and he was like, hey, come back. This is a Michelin star chef from France that has a restaurant on the Nile River. And he was like, let's cook together. Like, let's do it. So, you know what I mean? Like, these are opportunities. I'm knocking on doors, going out and making opportunities. And so I think for me, it was like, let's continue this, because the economy can't stop what we have going. You know what I mean? Like, we're not waiting on this multi-million-dollar package. We're not waiting on investors. We're living a very active and fulfilling lifestyle without needing the multi-million-dollar loans and things of that nature. Like I said, Steven, this dude showed up in Europe, and he's like doing Fashion Week and like, you know, all of these things. It's like, dude is like, we were in Miami and Steven's like, yo, I'm out here working Fashion Week. Like, you know what I mean? Like, Steven will jump on a plane and be like, I'm going, you know, and I'm going to shoot that, you know, and that's amazing. And so once again, just seeing us trailblaze really through doors. And so wanting to talk about like even how we made that happen in the past and what we're hoping and anticipating making happen in the future, you know. I think it's cool. So yeah, I would even transition into you, Steven, and just talk about some of those experiences that you've had in Europe and all the other places that you've been to in South America, I believe, and Central America, and yeah, just getting up and making those things happen.
I was transitioning into fashion.